This is Idol Insiders with your host, Bennett Shear.
Today we're welcoming a contestant from season 6 of American Idol, Sanjaya Malakar.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Tell me what made you want to audition. And also, you got to remember that you auditioned with your sister, Shamali. So who sort of had the first idea to go out and do this show?
Basically, I was I was a high school choir boy. All my friends were singers, and it was coming to Seattle. At one point, a group of friends wanted to go in a van and drive down to California and do it, and I was like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't really want to do this. I was one of the guys that was like, oh no, doing American Idol, selling out. I don't want to be that guy, whatever. But then when it came to Seattle, it's coming to Seattle Center. It's 20 minutes away from my house if I, in traffic or whatever. And so I was like, I might as well. And then I didn't want to do it alone. And so I asked my sister, and I actually asked my cousin as well, did it. And she went on to, she's a artist right now. She's in LA. Feed the Birds, Camila Ricci. It was like, why not? We're all singers. It's there. We're just going to, stand in the rain for 2 days and then see what happened. I don't think that I really understood the gravity of what that decision was. My mom really tried to get it in my head, but you make those decisions because you're told you can do anything, you can follow any dream, just do it, make the leap, and the net will appear if you do it right, if you are smart about it. It's crazy because also for me, American Idol, I was 16 and 17, and so it's been my entire adulthood since then. And so I compare it often to if I was a star quarterback in high school, and then people are like, oh man, remember that? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's really good. And it's cool. It's I feel honored to have the opportunity to share that moment with so many people. But sometimes it's jarring because I almost forget, and people are like, oh yeah, and I'm like, oh right, I was this phenomenon in some weird way. I got my GED to basically do American Idol instead of junior year of high school, so that was my junior year. My homecoming was American Idol finale or the tour.
Yeah,
it's weird, and then you leave that and you pursue it, but it's you're learning how to work, especially at that age. You're learning what a job is, and this is your first job essentially. I had little gigs here and there or whatever, grocery, but yeah, so you learn yourself, you learn what kind of work you are, you learn what really moves you, what you're really passionate about. And so it's been a crazy ride to be able to do that, and then also have this thing in the background that's just kind of over your head. You never know who's going to recognize you. You never know who's going to bring it up or when.
You mentioned something very interesting. You said stand in the rain for 2 days. That's literally we would see the footage that they would blip through in the audition episodes of thousands and thousands of people that would stand outside in the rain, that would camp for days if they had to. And this is in the early days of American Idol, when people would do anything just to get their shot. And to think that it paid off and that it worked is kind of crazy. But one of the first things I kind of wanted to talk to you about was what we didn't see on TV as these initial audition rounds before the judges, because back then they didn't really reveal that there's this stadium that you go into, and then you see Nigel and Ken, the executive producers at the time. So let's talk a little bit about your very first audition. When I say audition, it's not Randy, Paula, and Simon. It's standing in a stadium. Again, I don't know, because you're with Shamli, if you two are standing together, if they split you up, but what do you remember about being in that big stadium, and just walk me through that?
It's funny you say, what do you remember? I can walk through, I remember conversations that, not verbatim, but I remember moments of standing in that line. And it was literally 8 hours for 2 days in the rain for, I can't remember if it rained both days, but there was definitely, we were standing in the rain, thousands of people, just a line wrapped around Seattle Center. And so you go up in the first audition, you go into Key Arena, and there's like, they called it the cattle call, and it's 12 tables with 2 producer or like executive, whatever, people, judges at each table. You go up in groups of 4 because it's like based on what number you get the day before, and then you come back in line, and then you go inside, and they like sort you by that. So because me, my cousin, and my sister were all in line together, we all come up together, and then one other girl, and each person sings like half a line of a song. And they brought me and my sister on. I've come to realize that it's probably because they wanted the story of the brother and sister. And then my cousin and the other girl got cut. Mm-hmm. And so that was weird the first day, because my cousins also like were her rides. So now we're all excited, but we're sad for her. And we're going through all the process of what do we do next? And she's just waiting. And so that was like my first experience in that, of like, oh, this is going to be like very emotionally jarring often. And so then you do that, you get called back, I don't know, maybe a couple months later or something, for the next audition is 2 auditions in one day at I don't know, some corporate building with rooms, and you go in different rooms, and there's I went into, actually Jordan Sparks was in line with us on this day. Wow. Which I kind of heard her practicing and was like, all right, so you're either going to go really far or like going to do, because she had come from the Arizona Idol. She had just won that to fly up to Seattle to do the audition. So we're like, oh, this girl's going to be like, all right, so this is our competent shit. So yeah, I get to the second audition. I go in, and who I came to find out was the Idol artist manager cut me because I sang I'll Make Love to You by Boyz II Men as a 17-year-old kid who was nervous to be in this audition. So I'm just like, I'll make love to you like you want me to. He's like, I don't think that you're ready. I think that you should go, and like, not like, I'm going to spare you this experience. You know, feel like your sister's going to go through, but I think that you're just not quite ready. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, I don't think I'm ready. I didn't think that I was going to make it this far. So sweet. And then I go out, my sister goes into the third audition, and that's for Nigel and Ken. And she goes through, and he's like, oh, wow, that was great. Like, you made it. Well, I guess you're just going to be more competition for your brother. And then she's like, no, my brother just got cut. And he's like, what? She's like, no, yeah, he just got cut. And so there's like all this rustling, and I hear on the radio, like, whatever,
get the brother,
like, get the brother, let him in. And I'm like, what is happening? And so they put me in the room. They're like, so I realized, or like, I hear you just got cut. What happened? And I explain it, and I'm like, okay, sing the song that you just sang. They're like, okay, I see what they're saying, but like, do you have any other songs? What do you like? What's your repertoire? And I like sang a couple other things, and they're like, all right, I think that you, like, I see something in you. You have the it factor, or whatever whatever they say. Go figure out why you were so uncomfortable, or why you didn't have the confidence that you needed to be in front of the judges. Like, what do you need to, walk into the room with your head held high like you're supposed to be there? And then for Simon, Paula, and Randy, I sang Signed, Sealed, Delivered. And that was the one that went on TV. Reality television in general, there's so much that is produced. I was also years later on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here,
yes,
which was sitting in an island, having cameras in the bushes around you, not being able to dry the laundry that you washed in the river next to the fire because we were blocking the view of the camera. So we had to negotiate with them to do our laundry so that we could not have moldy laundry and they could get their shots.
And then the cameramen are complaining because it smells, and you're like, well, you needed your shot.
Yeah. And so it's like all of that stuff is so on that same. I mean, I'm
It's
derailing
okay.
a little bit, but
No, this is fun.
on that same show, there was a moment where, like, if you walk too far, the voice of God, we used to call it, because it was just like the speakers in the trees. Be like, Sanjaya, there's like British people, I'm pretty sure they were British. Can't remember. But Sanjaya, please make your way back to the camp, please, or like, please make
Oh
your
my
way to the
gosh.
confessional. And it's just like this really soothing, nice voice coming out of nowhere. It's just like, Sanjaya, please make your way to the confessional. And then they're like, you can't be walking that far because we can't see you, and our like ninjas in the trees can't like protect you from the howler monkeys or something. I don't know what's happening out there. And so one night I'm just standing there and I'm like, okay, so I'm on the set of a TV show, and then I walk like 2 feet. Now I'm in the jungle, like in the middle of like the wilderness. And now I'm on TV. And now I'm on the and now I'm on a set. Like, and in my mind I'm thinking like a TV set. Like, you go in the studio and you walk on set and you're like singing your song on the
Right.
stage, and then you walk,
You got second place on I'm a Celebrity?
No, I think I was technically 6th place, maybe. I was the second to last day, and then
Okay.
yeah, and then my day, I'm pretty sure, I can't. That's one that I've like.
Did they eliminate differently, like the way they film it or something?
Yeah, well, because those last couple days they do a couple, like, you're not cut based on the challenges. It's like something else. So, the top 3 are the last day, and then the second to last day is 2 more, and then or something like that.
So like the second to last batch, that's how far that you made it. Okay.
But I think I won like 11 of the 12 challenges, or 10 of the 12 challenges that I did, and the 2 that I didn't win, I was like, I don't want to be camp leader, or I don't want to like eat this like a Rocky Mountain oyster, but just like no seasoning, and just like a ball boiled and then put on a plate. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't even eat beef, so like this is the next level. And yeah, so it like, but for me, that one was just like, okay, everyone who knows me from American Idol. I was a child. I didn't really get an opportunity because of the production, and because of what they're taking from what they film, what they're like the storyline that they're trying to create. So anything that, like, me being able to, I don't know, pop popcorn on a fire has nothing to do with what their storyline is. So I was like, okay, I don't really want to do that. Like, they approached me with I'm a Celebrity, and they're like, I was like, I don't want to do Big Brother in the Jungle. That doesn't sound fun for me. But then after a while, I was like, okay, I can figure out a way to show some people more of my personality through this, and just kind of see it as a vacation in the jungle with a lot of drama. And it was basically that.
Season 6 of Idol was known for getting the biggest celebrity weekly mentors you possibly could. You kick things off with Diana Ross. You've got Gwen Stefani, Tony Bennett, rest in peace. I mean, I think, gosh, was it Martina McBride was your last week? I don't even know who I'm missing. You're every week. Jennifer, I remember Jennifer Lopez. I watched a clip of today. She's like, I like Sanjay. She just looks at the camera and she's like, I like him a lot.
What? And then in a different interview, her and Mark Anthony are standing there, and they ask her about me, and she's like, oh, I would adopt Sanjay. I'm like, can you adopt me? But can I also still have my mom? Like, how does this work? Because I would totally
by parenting.
Like, come on now, but those were the moments. Like, Beyonce called me on my birthday.
Are you serious?
Yes. Like, what? Like, I'm sitting in a cab with my roommate, and then I answer the phone, and, hey, Sanjaya, it's Beyonce. I'm like, you said hey, and I knew it was Beyonce. Like, what is happening?
Wait, when is, okay, so tell me, is this like after post-Idol The agent
was-
connects you.
Yeah, this was like a friend of mine who is an actor in like Albuquerque and around. She knew Beyonce's publicist. And so I went, like, Beyonce's publicist was a huge fan of mine and had my pictures in her office and stuff. And so she, like, put me in contact with her. I went to her birthday and met Beyonce's mom and John Legend and all these people. And I'm just like, why am I in this room? I don't, like, I'm grateful, but I'm, like, honored and humbled and don't know why I'm here. And then I'm sitting in my cab with my roommate, and I just answer the phone, and it's Beyonce.
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
God.
how? Like, and I'm just pacing, and my roommate's like, "What is happening? Like, are you okay?" I'm like, "Don't interrupt this conversation. I'm gonna make it go as long as possible." I don't understand why or how it happened in any of these moments, but it all started from that first day of audit, from standing on line for 8 hours. And something about, like, me and my sister together, something about whatever it was, the universe, the planets were aligned in that moment. There was, when I got to the front of the line, I hadn't realized after whatever the 8 hours of standing that I needed 3 forms of ID, not just one. So my mom actually had to drive back home and get 2 more forms of ID so that I could get into the first room.
Wow.
To, like, there were so many obstacles that were like, oh, like, maybe I should just not do this. Like, this isn't it. But something about whatever was supposed to happen, I'm like sitting here, whatever, 16 years later, talking to you about this life-altering experience that I had.
I was actually talking, interestingly enough, to remember Miles Siggins, your stylist on Idol?
Oh, Miles, yes. Yes, I do. He showed me some, yes. Sorry, you just, like, flood of memories.
Did I? Well, tell me before I tell you. You tell me.
I just remember going into this really cool shop. I have, like, somewhere in LA. I have no idea where it was, but he's like, I know where we need to go. And, like, we went into this shop. We're just walking around, and having access to these just, like, one of a kind pieces of art that I'm just like, that was, I think, like, seeing the things that he was able to pick out that really reminded me, or I knew somewhere in my conscience, but it, like, brought to the forefront the idea that, like, there's, like, functional fashion, and then there's, like, you wear a piece, you buy a piece, you spend however much money on this piece of art, and then style it into something, or you can build off of it, or you can use it for all these different functions, or it's just you are the walking canvas for this piece of art. And like, that just, like, kind of opens this whole new, like, I understood these, like, what some people might call, like, weird, or, these controversial outfits that people are like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, no, that's art. That's, like, a piece of art. The Doja Cat with rhinestones all over her face is not meant to be, like, functional fashion. She is a canvas walking down that's what the Met Gala is like, this museum of art pieces.
Here, look, I found.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
There it is.
I have that in storage, like, loose storage. But yeah, that was also, the hairstylist showed me how to make the like, purposeful, messy hairstyles. They, like, did, like, loose curls, and then, like, had me whip it and throw it, and then, like, came over, stop, and then just, like, a little bit of hairspray on their fingers, and then, like, spray it. So, stop, and, like, I like this one. I'm like, what is happening? And it worked. It's like, okay, cool. I learned a lot of really cool, like, little tricks about hair that I now don't have. But
Dean Benowitz, right? The hair guy.
Yeah, Dean and his crew were, like, another form of art that is underappreciated, I think, in that realm, like, as an art piece.
Idol Insiders, we're mixing in contestants. Our main focus is going behind the scenes because with my own career ambitions, but also wanting to get to know the people that basically have brought the show to life. And we're not just talking about Idol, we're talking about entertainment as a whole, because it's like we got to understand how the machine operates, right? And sort of because it's not just, I mean this with all the best of intentions. It's not just the judges, it's not just the contestants, it's the entire hundreds of people that come up with ideas every week.
More so than the judges and contestants. Like we are is the face of this huge production of incredibly talented, imaginative people who are organizing. It's like this swarm of like hive,
the pressure,
whatever, this pressure pot of ideas, and it moves so fast. And that's the other thing, is like they move, like they're reactive, and they're like, okay, this happened, boom, we're gonna do this happened, like, okay, you want to Dean's coming in here with some crazy mohawk, let's figure out what we're gonna do. Like, is it Sanjaya's mom is saying, this is crazy, you're making my son look crazy, I'm not gonna do this. The producers are like, I understand that as a parent, but also this is gonna change the face of American Idol. This is gonna, it was at one point the Pony Hawk. I heard, I didn't see it personally, but I did hear that at one point it was in college textbooks as like a study on, like, I don't know, the power of like a social phenomenon or something.
Wow.
Like I wasn't in the class, but yeah, like the fact that something like that, like ponytails on top of someone's head, can completely change like social, but I don't even know. I was blown away, and I still am by things all the time where people are like why is everyone fascinated by the fact that men are thinking about the Roman Empire?
What is this deal with this trend? Like,
and I don't, but that's the thing. It's like, what is the deal with this trend for a microsecond, and then it's the next one, then the next one. So it's, I don't know. It's, but here I am 15 years later talking about it. So it's, maybe it's, I don't know. I'm confused every day.
Well, that's actually what I was talking to Miles about. I was going to say is how, like, what fascinates me, and because he and I, when we did our interview, went in depth about social media and the lack of social media in 2007, and it was going to come about in 4 or 5 years, and just like, what would that have looked like to even add that pressure on top of everything? I mean, look at like now American Idol, they're doing 19 episodes a season and only like 7 of them. Imagine only 7 live shows, and you're doing, it's like, so
that's
because you're already doing you're already doing Ford music videos, you're already doing hair, wardrobe and hair, you're shooting everything like nonstop, and then now you got to film, and you have people commenting everything. Like, I can't imagine
we were on the show for 9 months. And wait, how many music videos do we do?
Well, every week,
we did one every week.
The top 12, or did you? Well, because you were also, they had like the 24, the 20, the 16. I don't know if you did it in those middle rounds on the smaller stage, but
no, I think it was just top 12. We did the music videos, and then we did the live show start with 24. Yeah, but like within all of that, we're doing interviews, we're doing meet and greets, we're doing, hair consultations and style, going with the stylist to find our wardrobe. Like, there's so much happening. Bringing it back to social media, we had like MySpace, maybe Facebook. I don't think so. I think it was just MySpace. And they were like, you're not allowed to have access to what's on there, because we don't want you to, because like we could go on blogs and we could go and see, there was just enough social media to be able to see kind of what people were talking about and see who was popular in the media and who people, it wasn't really until the Howard Stern thing, the vote for the worst thing, and I think that was kind of the like that's what got all of us more interested in what people were talking about, the contestants. And that's when the producers were like, no, like we do not want people on the internet. Like that is one of the rules for it, because we don't want leaks in what we're doing, and we don't want people like you guys to get in your heads what people are talking about.
How did you react when Howard Stern? I mean, of course, yes, Howard Stern's talking about you. Vote for the Worst comes about.
Mm-hmm.
What are you feeling mentally? What is it? What's the reaction? Does it not affect you?
When it first started, they were talking about other contestants. Like they didn't latch on to me initially. The first one that they really like, I think they had done a couple other people, but the first one that they really like latched onto, I'm pretty sure, was Antonella Barba. It was either that or just like she was the first one to get like controversy and kind of, you know, talked about in the media in a negative way enough for us to hear about it. And so while that was happening, I was kind of processing with her how to deal with it. And so by the time Howard Stern was talking about me, I was like, oh, like water off the back. At least they're saying my name right. Like I have the kind of name where if they're saying it right, then I'm something interesting, I guess.
Let's give them something to talk about.
Yeah, right. But they, like, after a while, I did start to kind of understand, because he kind of, I don't know if he changed his tune. I'm pretty sure he did, because initially, I'm pretty sure he was just like, Sanjaya sucks. Fuck him. Get him off the show. Or fuck him. Use him to destroy the show. Like show that it's a scam or whatever. We can like blow up the like, I'm gonna get my fan base to vote, all of them vote for this one shitty person, and then they're gonna win, and then like everyone's gonna realize that the show is rigged. And so then he started saying, wait a second, Sanjaya doesn't seem to be playing the game. He's just kind of like there. He's just kind of doing what he does and like being crazy and letting them do this crazy stuff, and then just being on the show. And that's kind of cool. I kind of dig this guy. And so he's like, okay, vote for the Worst, vote for Sanjaya. And then it turned into like this rallying call to make me win, because like me winning would have been destroying the show, because I on the show was this huge controversy, and people were like, why is he there? The only reason why he's there is because of his hair. He doesn't even sing well. He doesn't even do it. Like, who is he? Why is he taking a place that someone else who's more qualified is taking or should be taking? And so at that point, it became like Howard Stern and his army against the like whatever, that idea that I didn't deserve to be there. And then in the middle was like these really genuine, true fans that I have, that like I still have some of them, and I'm like, that, like, again, it's like, I don't know why, I don't know where it all came from, but I have these like little angels that are like, hey, you're great. It's so great to see your face. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Sometimes I feel, everyone, I live in Seattle, but there's a lot of seasonal depression I get in moments. And, sometimes it's good to have that support.
My honest opinion, because I'm a straight shooter, and I feel like if I don't have something nice to say, I don't say it. But this is my God's honest opinion of you, Sanjaya. I never really understood what was controversial about you. All 24 of you that got picked to be voted by America are just the kid from next door who got thrown into this, that didn't really know what was going to happen. Simon was as not ideal to you with his comments as he was to everyone. He's just being honest, and it wasn't like any different from anybody else. You have personality. You're interesting. Your song choices were fun. You sometimes kept it reserved. You sang in Spanish. I thought that was really, in my opinion, again, having no musical background, was that was your best vocal performance when Jennifer Lopez was mentoring.
So, yeah.
You got people on your feet. Let's give them something to talk about. Perfect message, by the way, and you really got me now as my personal favorite, just because moving and you use the stage, your outfits and your hair. It was all part of what being an American Idol is all about, which is being an artist. That's what the show set out to do, is to take that kid from next door who could be your neighbor and give them a platform, make them a star. I have to say, and I don't know if you want to talk about it, but this album that you released a couple years after, I really enjoy it. I really think that you have a sound and just
dancing to the music in my head.
Yeah,
The old one?
I know that it was a long time ago, but there's a song you have called A Quintessential Lullaby that I just love. There's another one called A Guy Like Me, and I'm cracking you up. I really, really, really am entertained by you, and I'm telling you, I'm a straight shooter. I don't like to bring people on who I'm not fans of and just say, "Oh, you were great." Not even Paula Abdul does that. Paula Abdul's honest. They're all honest judges. So there's a reason why the people that liked you so much and voted for you. And a lot of times with controversy, there is that sort of polarization, but the people that liked you freaking loved you for a reason.
I think that polarization is kind of what secured my fan base, and what really, it became a rallying cry, and it became this like real support. And I, like, again, I'm so grateful, and I'm like humbled and honored to have these people that are, it's like this extended family that I've never met. And like during the tour, and like when it was first happening, and when people would come up to me and start talking, like asking about how my sister's dog was doing, and I'm like, I don't know you, and we're in New Zealand, and how is this happening? Like, I'm in Japan singing, and people are crying, and they don't even understand what words I'm saying, but they can feel that. I think that when you brought up, like, I see myself as an artist, not as a singer. So I think that was a big thing. There are people that go on these shows and are artists, and they're like, this is a thing that I do, but these are the other things that I do. And then there's people that are like, I want to be an American Idol. I want to be the singer, and which is great. And that's, I think these shows really give you an opportunity to differentiate yourself in that way. And I think you're right. My fan base really latched onto that. Right after I was thinking about what I'm going to do. Did I go to college? I applied and got accepted to Cornish School of Arts in Seattle, and like met a lot of friends that I didn't end up going, because I ended up, instead of paying to go to college, I paid to move to New York and have a similar experience that I probably could have used the structure that came with the college, but we won't go into that. But I had the opportunity to meet all these artists that were like coming together to learn and to explore their art. And it really, like, I think there's so many things that people forget are, like, right now I'm a chef, and I'm a pastry chef, and like the ability to take science and art and then make something nutritious and delicious. It's so fun and fascinating, and it challenges your brain in a really unique way that's really fun. Which is also, on a different tangent, is why I was so pissed when they started like really taking arts out of schools and really like changing. Like, I don't want to get into that, because that's a whole other thing. That
it's important, though, and as little as much as you want to say, it's important.
Like, I remember my last year of high school, I was in the theater program, and we were fighting with the football team for funding for our production. And I was just thinking, like, football's great, like that, like physical sports is great, but like the amount of kids that from 4 years old are having like severe brain injuries. Like, my mom got in a car accident and had like a severe brain injury, and the way that changed her functioning just on a daily basis, that like having that happen, getting like these severe concussions from young ages, and then expecting them to be able to really function at their fullest potential. This is supposed to be a space of learning and growth, and
I wanted to ask you about the crying girl, and
Mhm.
we're definitely gonna put a little footage thing of this. I always
Ashley Furl.
Ashley Furl, yeah. Oh my god, tell me, like, This is the first time that you saw her? For people that don't know, it was she showed up on the show he's doing. It was, I think, top 11. This girl, and you can't tell if she's happy or sad at first, which is definitely, they orchestrated it perfectly. He's singing, this girl's crying, and then Ryan's like, "Did you like it?" And she's still, and then finally she's like nodding. And tell me, like, when you found out about this, like, I want to hear all your takes on this stuff.
Well, actually, it's funny you should bring her up. That was the same week that I wore that jacket.
Oh yeah.
That was You Really Got Me. I actually picked that song. It was between that song and Something Tells Me I'm Into Something Good by the Herman's Hermits. And I was like, that's like not the vibe. And I was sick. And so my voice was like kind of scratchy. And I was like, oh, I'd rather do like this. And so it kind of like changed the whole mood of my performance, which I think also played into this girl, because it was very much that like Beatles like look that they were going for. And so I we're about to go on stage for the dress rehearsal, and I think it was the stage director or like the stage manager comes up, and she's like, "Hey, there's this girl that's been like crying outside in the line, and she has this sign that says," I think it was like a picture of, I'm pretty sure it was Phil, Stacy, Melinda Doolittle, maybe Lakeisha and me, or someone else, and maybe Chris. I can't remember. But it was 4 pictures, and then on the other side it said, "My dream is to meet Sanjaya."
Wow.
And so they're like, "Hey, like there's this girl," and she's like, "There, like, I think we're gonna like put her on like the aisle. I want you to walk up to her and sing to her." And I was like, "What?" Like, just like, trust me, like go up and just like sing to her. Okay. And so I go and sing, and like I'm kind of like tentative, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" Like I'm like trying to like comfort her. And so then we like meet, and she's like, "Ah!" Like not really talking, but just like crying at me, and I'm like, "I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what I did to you. I'm so sorry." But because like in my mind, I don't know what, like, when you meet someone who's crying because they're meeting you, that's like a very weird feeling. It's and so yeah, then like the show ends, and she kind of calms down a little bit, and they go up to her and they're like, "Hey, do you want a ticket to the like filming or whatever?" Because she like stood in line to be able to see the dress rehearsal, and she's like, "I was like, yes, we're gonna do that." And or is that like, I don't know exactly what the conversation was, but this is what I gathered. And so then they're like, "Yeah, she's gonna be at the dress or at the actual filming. We want you to like really play into, as much as you can, like play into this like Beatles thing, yeah, the Beatles the British invasion." And so yeah, so then like we're like doing the show, and I'm like looking at her, and then like it starts, and she like starts crying more, and I'm like, "Oh," it was really weird, because like that again, that played into that, like there is some genuine aspect, but there's definitely a lot of production that goes into these shows that I didn't really understand when I was going into it. So I kept learning all these things where they're like, "Hey, why don't you do this? I think it would look cool if you tried this. So yeah, you should definitely." And I'm like, or like they'd ask me questions in interviews, and then I realized that they were asking the same question a couple different ways to try to get a different answer.
Different
And I was
takes.
like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, but like, this is the same. And is there another way that you can say that? I'm like, yes. And like, fortunately, my sister is like an avid reader and very articulate, and so I took on some of those like traits, and so I was able to kind of this in the same, like, I'm kind of doing the same thing that you're doing, but I don't know what you're looking for, and they're like, okay, never mind. I'm like, all right, cool, sorry. Like, I don't know how to play this game, and I think that was also frustrating for people like going off like after, because obviously I pursued it, I wanted to do stuff, but I learned over time that not necessarily in the same capacity that I thought I did because of those kind of aspects of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Simon and really all the judges, right? They are a part of this thing too. One thing about that judging panel, and I think it's a little different now, you've got these superstars that are artists. Before it was you're going to take people behind the scenes and make them these new, they became stars, but they were characters. Like, it's non-scripted, it's reality TV, but they were such classic characters. You had Randy, who's going to tell you like it is, but also in a fun way. Then you have Paula, whatever she's thinking, she's going to find a way to tell it to you nice. And then you got Simon. His job is to just rip into everybody, right? But it's been well publicized. Like he said it himself, it's a character. He can mean what he says, but then the way he says it is like it's for television. And so when people say, oh, he's so mean, like the tone or the way he goes about it or the snarkiness, it's like that's for television, right? So I think, and you got to be a part of the sort of like, well, then the cameras aren't rolling, then they come up to you and they're like, I didn't mean this, or when I said this, like, I just want you to know, right? So there were probably moments like that for you.
There were a few, and like I think for a certain amount of time, they kind of tried to
limit your contact with them.
Yeah. We'd have like a day where Paula comes in and gives us gifts and talks to us, or stuff like that. But piggybacking on what you were saying about the characters, it was the executive, the producer, and the artist. And that was what, you're walking into the room with the person who's the executive who's saying, my time is money. Are you wasting my time? Because if you are, move, because someone else wants to be where you are. Yeah. Then you have the producers. It's like, okay, you're cool, but like, how much work do I have to do to make you sound good? And what, we need to be able to work together. We need to have a good, like, solid, cool communication. But I also need to not have you waste my, time, my tape, my materials, I'm booking this band to sing live with you and you're wasting my time. So how many takes do I need to get out of you? And then you have Paula, who's like, okay, you had craft services table food all day and have been stressed out and got 2 hours of sleep last night and are terrified that there's hundreds of thousands of people watching you. I get it. I'm here for you, but we all had to do it. So, you have to, can you step up to the plate? Can you be that artist that, do you have the capacity to do so? And I think that I understood that. I'm sure someone explained it to me really well, and I can't remember who, but I understood from early stages in the show that was what was happening, and that, yes, Simon can be a dick, but am I wasting his time? Because at this point in my life, I've been in situations where I definitely was like, why am I talking to you right now? You are like, you're talking in circles. That was if you know, talking in circles, YouTube.
Yeah.
But if you're talking in circles and wasting my time and we're not getting anywhere with this conversation, we could be doing something like elsewhere or communicating with other people. There's so many people in the world. Why am I spending an hour and a half saying the same thing over and arguing about the same point or whatever it is, So yeah, I think that helped. That understanding of that really helped when he started to get really, because there was also a shift with him, and it was like, wow, you're great. You're like, I'm really excited about you. And then I got on the show. Well, basically, it's so Hollywood Week. My sister got cut and I made it through, and then there's this whole like more production. They got the crying shot of me and my sister hugging because I made it and she didn't. Like,
you were in the same group too, right? In the same group rounds?
We were in the same group number, and then they split us into 3 rooms, and we weren't in the same room. And my sister knew, and I was like, oh no, my sister's not in here. I must be getting cut. Like, I was like, so it was weird. But then I looked at the people around me. I was like, Jordan Sparks is in this room. I'm like, it's very unlikely. Like, a lot of people in that room were like, Jordan Sparks is in this room. We're not getting cut. Like, look at, like, we're not getting cut. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And I think there might have been 2 that were going to make it and one that didn't. And so then it was like, okay, like, who's in the other rooms? And you're like bringing back all these like waves of like imagery.
How did it feel to watch Jordan win? And you had to have been there in person at the Kodak. Well, now that's Adobe Theater, it was the Kodak at the time, but you literally were there in line with her, and then you watched her have the confetti fall, and she is this star that you kind of knew she was. So what do you remember about witnessing that?
I was really like, I don't like to say proud because I didn't do anything to help her, but she like, it was really like fulfilling for me to see her work pay off. And we became really close. We're still like, I have a tattoo that she has a star. I don't know if she still has it, but she got a star.
Oh wow.
And or a sun, maybe. I think she got the sun and I got the moon, and then her hairstylist got the star. But yeah, we were the youngest on the tour. We were the only ones that were under 21. So when everyone went to the bar, we would just hang out in her. She always got the like suite, so we'd hang out in her suite and just hang out and talk and sing and so yeah, it was like seeing your best friend, become prom queen. It's like I never imagined myself to be far enough on, like, I didn't have the expectation that I was going to win. So it wasn't like, oh, this person's taking this place. Like, I was like surprised to even be on the top 10 stage. So there was never any like jealousy, or I think I've heard people talk about how in that time we were some of the closest contestants that had been on the show. We were the ones that were like, what I do doesn't affect you, and vice versa. So I'm not going to be mad at you if you do better than me, or if you take my spot. That's not, we're going to help each other to try to, like, you need a song. Well, I have this group of songs that I think would be really good for you. Maybe you could try it. Like, so I think that helped me to kind of like not get as overwhelmed as I could have. There's a lot of support within the group, and there still is. We chat every once in a while. I can't say that we chat on a regular basis, but we check in and stuff.
Dude, once you even said tour, like I have to keep you here for like 10 hours just to get like all the tour stories. It's like you did it. You go on a show for, we already talked about, like it's like there were 45 episode seasons back then, and then you're on the road all summer. Like I mean, it's the life of a rock star, of course, but it's like, it's just, I mean, it's crazy, like, to go from, as we say, like, this story starts with you, like, let's do the show, let's stand in line, let's get 3 forms of ID, and then you're on American Idol, make top 7, and then go to the finale, and then go on tour for the summer, and then have all this, time where you go, and I'm a celebrity, and then people recognize you, they still recognize you.
And then travel, and then I did an independent tour, and then I did, and then after that, I, retired, whatever retiring at 26 means, because I was like, I feel like my representation is veering me into a direction that I don't want to be in. I'm more depressed than usual. I understand why the 27 Club happens. I'm not an addict. I don't have, like, there's a lot of factors that I don't have that a lot of those people did, but I understand how taking your art and putting it on display, and then having the people that are supposed to be supporting you in it say, that's wrong. That's not how you should write your diary. And you're like, whoa, like, I very much take to the idea. I can't remember the quote exactly, but I heard somewhere that Prince said something about, like, I make art for myself. I make music that I like to listen to, And if other people like to listen to it, then that's cool. But I'm not making it for that purpose. And I think that's really like resonated because I make some weird shit. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I'm like just grooving to it. And I'm like, no one ever wants to hear this. I know that. I'll sit and I'll stack 27 voices just to like make some like cool, like, you know, play around and teach myself the music theory that I didn't learn early on and just be like, okay, how did these chords coincide in the way that like to create this emotion? Because when I'm teaching myself music, I'm teaching it by ear and by emotion. And so it's you know, that's how you develop yourself as an artist in any art. You can't, like, a painter doesn't always paint a perfect face. They do weird scribbles and designs, and you know, you have to fall and throw yourself against the floor before you can do a perfect whatever fuente turn.
That's the most beautiful form of art, like when you are just figuring it out without, I mean, playing by ear, not playing by ear, but just, you know, throwing the pain and not making it for like, okay, well, we got to please this people. It's just doing it because you love it. And if other people might like it or love it, then, you know, like you said, fans that have been there from the very beginning or even find you along the way, the real homies, they don't care if you make music that's like radio friendly or fits a pop record, right? It's just like whatever feeds your soul and matches theirs, then like it's dope.
That's why real fans like deep cuts. They're like,
Yeah.
oh man, that single's really cool, but have you heard this song? It's like, shit, like you're a real fan. You actually listen to the songs and understand the story. Like, that's why it like I understand why it's happening, but it was a little heartbreaking to see the transition between, like, I know he's a controversial artist now, but Kanye West's College Dropout album, I think, was like the peak of his art expression. And before it kind of got like turned into, like, I think there was a lot of influence that changed. He was still an incredible artist petering out of that, but I think that album from beginning to end is a story, and there's like interludes that connect the songs, and each song is like speaks into the next song, and that's how albums were constructed at one point. And I don't think that happens as often. I'm sure it still does, but we're very much more like singles and this song and this, you know, and we're just gonna like bounce around and do the thing. And you know, I think that speaks to the change in society, or like our TikTok, like whatever attention span, really Vine attention span. We had to get to the point where we could get our joke across in 5 seconds, and then we like have expanded it again. But I just watched this video of this girl or this person that was talking about like, why do millennials speak so so slowly? Which yes, okay, we take pause. I'm probably speaking very slowly for that person, but they were speaking like, and it was like this like manic frantic, and I was just like, whoa, like that's
it's TikTok pace. It's the TikTok pace.
It is. It's totally the TikTok pace, and it's because every sentence is edited in. There's no space, and so when you watch videos like that, you start communicating like that, and it like you lose the nuance, and you lose, like, pauses are written into music for a reason. It speaks to the story and what you're, you know, it gives you a moment to absorb what was just said, or what was just play, you know, what was just spoken in the arrangement. You know, when you're speaking, you are singing to a certain extent. The voice is moving in the same way, hopefully, if you're doing it like healthily. But but yeah, so it's like you should write those rests into your speech so that people can absorb what you're saying. Some people do it more than necessary, but that's fine, I suppose.
Or like the lack now of instrumental breaks because everything's just got to be like, all right, there's no time, verse, chorus, like, and then songs now, it's like 2 minutes, 20 seconds because there's no time to have a full 3.5 minute. But
because no one's gonna, once the instrumental break comes and you're, whatever, 6 measures into a 16 measure instrumental break, you're like, man, I'm bored. Let's go to the next song. Because they're not listening to the nuance. They're not listening to why it's that long, what is changing. They're like, I'm just listening to the beat, whatever.
But the real fans, like when you really connect with an artist, then you lock in, then you'll listen for the whole thing, then you'll go to their concert, and like at least
you're trying to figure out what you're trying to figure out what their message is.
Yeah.
Like why did they write the song, or why did they choose to sing it? And that's and that again goes into like what is the reason behind their art. That's why people stand in front of a painting for hours. Like they're looking at the same thing. I'm looking at a wall, but there's something in that. People will stand in front of a blank white painting because someone painted 100 layers of white onto a black dot. And they're like, why? What was their thing? It's like, maybe it was just because they knew that you would sit there for an hour and pay thousands of dollars for it. Or maybe it was, whatever.
You must love the little details that go into creating a pastry. What does it mean if we add this little thing here, or this some glaze?
I mean, absolutely. That actually, so I got hired as a pastry chef because I love to bake, and I made my sister a croquembouche for her wedding, which if a croquembouche is like the thing. And I was like, oh, that's a challenge. Let's do it. Why not? Yeah. If it fails, it's fine. And I did it, and there was some people. She works in fine dining. She was a Michelin star like server and like sommelier, and did she works with top-notch people. So the people at her wedding were like people that went to pastry school and work in nice restaurants, and they tasted it. They're like, this is really good. Like, this is some of the, like, you didn't go to school for this? I'm like, no, I like science. I don't know. It's cool. I'm a nerd. And so when I was like looking for a place to like change what I was doing, I had been living in New York for, at that point, like 8 years, just working in a karaoke bar in the Lower East Side, which was fun. But it was, leave the bar at 5, 6 in the morning, like thousands of people probably coming. We had 15 private rooms. It was Sing Sing on Avenue A. Go there. It's awesome. But yeah, it was fun, but it was a lot. And it was just basic bartending. And my sister was working at this fine dining restaurant in Whitefish, Montana. And she was like, do you want to learn to be a craft bartender? I was like, why not? Like, that sounds cool. I can take this like love for flavor and craft it into these like really awesome drinks. And to your point, like, okay, this daiquiri is really cool, but what if we put a saffron spray on top of it, so that the first thing that you smell is saffron, and then you taste this like lemon daiquiri with like a spiced rum. So it's like, or Trinidadian spiced rum, so it's more leaning towards the Indian spices than the Caribbean spices, and you have this like saffron, a saffron rice martini with put a little bit of black cardamom rice milk, and it's a one drink that I made once and was like, this is amazing, and have never made again. And I was like, oh man, I want that so bad. One day I'll make it again. But yeah, I was able to get really creative. That after there, I worked in the bar at that spot for 2 seasons, and then moved into the kitchen, and was like a line cook in the kitchen for 1 season, then left and moved to Orcas Island and worked in a craft bar where we would walk up to the table and I would ask the customer, I'd be like, oh, do you want like a drink from the menu, or do you want us to craft you something? And like, oh yeah, make us something. And so I'd say, if you could be any animal, what animal would you want to be based on the partnership that animal has with their partner? So like I chose wolf because like the stereotypical wolf alpha partnership is like the alpha female in the front, the alpha male in the back. They have this like connection, but they are able to be separate and independent and strong in themselves and have their own. And then there's like this like warmth and like fierceness to them, but they're still like kind of cuddly because they're puppies. And so I came up with, I call it the Himalayan monk.
Mm.
And it's based on yogi tea that my dad would make. And it's basically a basic chai that's cardamom, cinnamon, black pepper, ginger, and cloves. And I made a simple syrup out of that, and then made a basic old fashioned with ginger instead of cherry, and cardamom bitters. And it was delicious, and it was warm, and it like spicy a little bit. And like I would explain that to people and then give it to them, and they're like, this is exactly, this is a wolf. I taste the wolf. And I'm like, I don't know if that's like, it's probably the power of suggestion, but like being able to be that creative and just like have like whatever kind of amaro, whatever kind of syrup, we would make our own tinctures, we would do whatever we wanted in-house. And then I made one called the Yama Sakura that was it was like a cherry blossom. Like I wanted to basically get the whole tree in the thing, so I did Luxardo cherry and cherry hearing, and then cherry blossom infused gin, and then I put a cherry blossom on top and top it with sparkling wine or whatever. And so you'd get like the cherry juice of the fruit and the kind of like juniper woodiness of the gin with the cherry blossom on top, and you can eat all of it. And it's like the whole tree in this like beautiful champagne glass, like sparkly thing. And just being able to add that like art to food, to science, to like, why am I putting a little bit of salt into this pastry? Like my favorite ingredient as a pastry chef is salt, because salt enhances the flavors. That you don't need to put as much sugar if you put salt, because your flavor, like the science of your tongue makes it so that I always go back to like, I love science and how that like weaves its way into everything, into like, why does this song hit our brain and like make us feel this way? Why does a C major chord make us feel happy and open, and like happy birthday to you is in these like major chords? Because you want it to be uplifting versus something that's in a minor or in a
Honestly, out of all the ways that all the ingredients that you listed and the way that you described the wolf, for instance, I think the most fascinating thing when you ended by saying that salt is your favorite ingredient, I think that perfectly sums up the talent that you have, just because people that aren't in the culinary world and myself wouldn't think, oh, like you just throw a bunch of sugar in. But it's like, when you don't know all the ingredients, when you don't know what it takes to have that kind of talent and do all these different things, make all the craft, everything, right? It kind of boils down to, you would never expect to like put salt, right? Like I would think, I mean, maybe, or just that's your favorite ingredient. Maybe, oh, well, of course you add a little bit of salt to this and that, but the fact that salt is your favorite ingredient, like people think, oh, like, sugar is what makes this sweet. Like, it just kind of sums up, right?
Well, and it's so versatile as well. Like salt is the kind of thing where you can get so many different kinds because they're coming from so many different sources that have different like flavor profiles, and like the shape of the molecule will change the way that your tongue is absorbing it. So finishing salt is a different shape than a table salt, or than and then also when you put it into your food, because if you start by like marinating your chicken in salt, and then you put a different salt in your sauce that as you're cooking your onions, and then you put a different salt as you finish it in the pot, and then you sprinkle a different salt on top, as long as you don't put in too much salt, and as you're like flavoring each thing correctly, then you get this depth of flavor that totally like it fills your palate with flavor instead of just salt or sugar or what. And I think that I got a lot of that from my mother. Was an incredible cook, and then my dad is an incredible cook as well, but he is he's from India, and so he cooks Indian food, which is very much about like we're roasting our spices in this order for this amount of time to get this specific. Like he's like, okay, we're gonna put this much cumin. I'm like, how much is that? How many teaspoons? I don't know, like this much until like that's like the joke. Like you do it until the ancestors tell you to stop, and then you like go and you have to wait for it to look like this and smell like this, and then you can add this, and then when that starts to do this and smell like this, and you start to hear this, then you do that. I'm like, like there's so much more than just reading a recipe to, especially like. I know from personal experience Indian food, but then, you know, different cultures all over the world use spices in that way where it's like very precise how and what order and how you roast them. And then like my mom's family is Italian, and my aunt will, she used to call me up and be like, I'm trying to recreate your dad's fried rice, and I'm using all the I have all these like dried cumin. I'm like, yeah, but you need to use the whole cumin and roast them and then add the dry cumin in the garam masala later as well. And she's like, but I already did cumin. And it's like, but it's a different like process. It's a different way. It's a different like form of the flavor of cumin seed. And that, you know, and it's like, unless you really can experience it, I think it's hard to understand in that on that level. And I think it's important. I think that's another thing that we should be learning in school is how to cook for ourselves. I mean, I look at these, I saw a TikTok the other day that was talking about French, like the lunch programs in French schools, and they're eating like full meals that are expertly cooked. And it's, you know, it's so important to instill the knowledge of nutrition and how like tofu isn't this gross thing. It's just an ingredient that needs to be processed correctly. I loved tofu cheese sandwiches as a kid. That's what my mom would make, was tofu with like pan fried in what like liquid aminos, which is basically soy sauce, but it's beneficial. It has like amino acids, and it's going to like benefit your body and give you the same kind of flavor to make this like really interesting, cool grilled cheese sandwich instead of just cheese and bread.
Right.
And because I was only ever introduced to it, I didn't have the other, like in my mind, I didn't know what asking for a Lunchable was, because the only interaction with Lunchables was on TV or my friends at school. And then by the time my mom allowed me to taste them, I was like, this is stale bread with like cold, like why wouldn't it be a hand pizza that you make from scratch, because you can make the dough in, you know, an hour and a half. It's like, okay, that's weird. And like I think that was really like one of my favorite toys of my sister's that I would play with was the Easy Bake Oven, because I remember learning how to make cookies with my mom with a wooden spoon. She's like, do it with a wooden spoon because that's the best way to really cream your butter. And I'm like, okay, you know, there's little things that like go into that process of like, what is the difference between this store-bought cake that's like good, it's good, tastes good, or this exactly the same kind of cake that was made from scratch by someone who was like really thinking about the components of how to make it, you know, well and with like purpose.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
All-purpose flour.
All purpose, yeah. But maybe cake flour would be better.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm so far removed from knowing what that, if that was even the right answer.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this is so fascinating to hear, and I was hoping we get to chat about that work, because it just goes to show, I mean, a whole nother element of who you are. Like it really, truly, like that's getting down to at the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about how this really was a blip in time, and American Idol is this thing that people know you for, but that's just that, it's a thing. It's not the only thing. You know, you live so much life, you know, and your career is only a part of that life. You have, like I said, the thing about sitting down and having a conversation is you could do a 12-hour podcast about your whole life. It's like you have your career and the things that people see on the outside, and then you have the things that, you know, are your personal life. Like it just goes on and on and on. But the bottom line is genuinely, Sanjay, that it has been fascinating to listen to you, because your thoughts, the way that you open up and how honest you are about everything is just, it's really interesting and exciting. And I can't wait for people to hear it, because and you're so detailed with it too. Like the fact that you literally go into detail about these recipes, you remember all the little things about American Idol, which is great, because I know that it was a minute ago. But I'm so grateful that you took the time to come on and go down memory lane.
Well, I know I definitely ramble, so I would love to, if ever you would like, I would love to continue go deeper into America. We kind of like talked about it for a second. I just like
Oh
derailed,
no, yes.
but
Believe it, I would love that. I already have some ideas of some other segments and stuff. So yeah, man. Is there any social media, any music, anything you want to promote locally with work, like anything I can give you, any sort of platform to just talk about what's coming up for you?
I mean, basically my social media at this point is TikTok. I play around on that. I'm not really promoting much right now because I've been just kind of working. I do have a song on YouTube, um, Talking in Circles. If you look up Talking in Circles
Yes.
Sanjaya, you can see it. If you want to hear me singing original music, I'm just grateful to be able to chat and kind of, like you said, walk down memory lane. Nowadays when I talk about American Idol, it is very much like reminiscing, like, you know, I'm detached emotionally, which helps because there was so many extreme emotions and I kind of had to process through. I had some, I don't want to say resentments, but there were definitely moments where I was like, why did that happen that way? What did I do to do whatever, mess up, whatever. But I'm really grateful now to be able to have had that experience and to have like we were talking about, that group of people that still to this day support me and are this extended family that I never knew that I would ever get. I'm very, very grateful for them.
Thinking about it truthfully, you might be a part of my first, I think, true core memory of American Idol, because before I actually started watching the show, I rewatched, or I never watched season 6 when it was on. My first like live season was season 8. So then I years later did a deep dive, or like I think it was before COVID. Some year I like went on YouTube and rewatched the earlier seasons. But I remember when season 6 was out, I was there was a girl in my class that was obsessed with American Idol. I hadn't yet watched it on TV, so I kind of fully didn't know what it was. But every Wednesday or Thursday, this girl, her name was Jacqueline, she would come into school and she'd be like, "This happened on American Idol." And it's so funny to think that at the time I had never watched American Idol, was like, well, this girl stopped talking about American Idol. And then years later,
Yeah.
I would go on to be obsessed with it, have my own podcast about it. So, funny thing. But so I think, and okay, when you got sent home, I remember how upset she was about Sanjaya being eliminated. I remember
Yeah.
coming in and saying Sanjaya got eliminated. And I said, "Oh, who's Sanjaya?" So then, 2 years later, I start watching the show. I go back, watch the older seasons. And now I'm like, would it be weird if I just like, Jacqueline won't remember me? Should I like find her on Instagram and like send her
Just send her this video.
because like she'll probably won't remember me, but if she sees Sanjaya, she's like, I have to watch this. And then she'll see me talking about her and be like, okay, this is weird that this dude's sending me this video. He remembers who I am. I don't know. If it's weird to go up and say something to someone, go up and say
Yeah.
something to someone. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I like to test people in a very safe way. I like to test people's comfort zones. Like,
Yes.
push them out of their box a little bit, get them to expand their mind maybe.
Yeah. Hey, if you can go and sing in front of 40 million people every week, there's no excuses. We should all be able to.
I mean, yeah.
It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that courage, yes. I think at the moment it was probably a lot more just like ignorance and foolishness. I was like, I don't know, whatever, this is irrelevant. And then I was like, oh no, now I'm stuck in it and it is really real. Okay, now I have to be courageous because I'm already here. But it definitely it forces you to it's very similar to when I first moved to New York. It forces you to either, I use this metaphor for New York as a whole. It's kind of like a river. You can
Mhm.
either be like standing on the bank of it and looking at this beautiful river walk by, and it's kind of peaceful and you're like, wow, what beautiful. Or you can be swimming in the river. You're like, whoa, like there's like alligators and hippos and like fish, and I don't know how deep it is, and it's like crazy rapids and all this stuff. Or you can be sitting on a rock and you're like, okay, I'm peaceful and I have my spot and I'm chilling, but I know that I have to go into the river to get
Mm.
to the outside. And so I have to like know how to swim to have gotten to this rock and established myself. And now I can be comfortable and functional in it. And I think that that's like that's what Idol and Fame and that whole thing was like. I was, there's so much happening, and I don't know what's happening until I'm in it. And then once you can establish yourself in it, then you can kind of navigate that chaos.
And look at everything that's just happened since. You keep swimming in the adventure. Just
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I could talk to you all day. Seriously, I can't thank you enough again for your time,
Oh, thank you.
Sanjaya, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Driving away, following the road, and I know that I'll be okay. Can't complain. It's a little warm, but the breeze is cooling off my face. Left me alone, out of my mind, had to find something else to do. Don't come home, 4 in the morning, and I'm still waiting up for you. Tired of your lies, tired of waiting around, tired of crying, baby, always bringing me down. Didn't take long to love you, and it won't take long to say goodbye. No, no, to say goodbye. Oh, your walk is tough, but you say nothing at all. Talking in circles is gonna make you fall. Slipping on all these eggshells that you've been laying down. All the stories that you tell got your face on the ground. You're lost in your fantasy, caught in the web you weave. You try to pull me in closer, but you know that I should leave. Didn't take long to love you, and it won't take long to say goodbye. No, 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 to say goodbye. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, babe, driving away. Bye-bye. Got my bags and I know that I'll be okay. You called me today. Didn't get the phone cause I said all I have to say. Play with my mind like you think it's a game. If you keep on trying, baby, I know you'll drive me insane. It didn't take long to love you, and it won't take long to say goodbye. No, 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 to say goodbye. No, 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 no. Oh, 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 oh. And it won't take long to say goodbye.